Hey y'all, well today in this episode, as usual, we got hikers checking in. Some unfortunately for the last time, unfortunately for us because we're going to miss them, but fortunate for them because they have finished their hike and summited. And then we've also got just folks on trail that are checking in and the usual plethora of news that amazes me every week. There's still something new going on the Appalachian Trail. So let's go ahead and dive right in. So we got Sonny Jim. He is in the process of his flip-flop from Harper's Ferry to Mount Katahdin, and he says that now he's completed the state of Maine and he is entering into New Hampshire. So obviously he's on his SOBO portion of that flip-flop. He says he's seeing about a dozen or so NOBO a day, but he said the word on the trail is there's a bubble behind somewhere in Vermont. And just that's kind of accurate, but looking at where the hiker heat map is, it looks like that's a little further north than that. Maybe the bubble is somewhere around New Hampshire. Now I know there's a lot of people go, a couple in particular go, oh, the hiker heat map's outdated information. You can't go by what that is. Well, not necessarily. And the reason I say that is if you look at how accurate it was at the beginning of the year, and that is when folks are starting their thru hike. So here's the middle of the bubble that it shows from registrations, and then here's what the hiker heat map shows. You'll see that it's pretty doggone accurate about what's going on out there on the trail at the beginning. So why, it typically takes people the same amount of time each year to get through. Nobody's increasing it that much or decreasing it that much. So if it's the same in the beginning at the year, then I would surmise that it's also the same at the end. So it's not perfect, but it is our best tool that we have right now until somebody updates it or comes along with something better. Sonny Jim also says that the water sources in the southern part of Maine there are causing a lot of concern because it has been pretty dry. He says, but there is water available as long as you are looking at the notes on Far Out. So that'd be the comments on Far Out. Of course, Far Out is the navigation app of choice that most people use out there on the Appalachian Trail and a lot of other trails as well. And then Tie-Dye, he checks in where he is almost out of the 100-mile wilderness, and he says except for one miserable rainy afternoon, the weather has been perfect. And we're going to hear from Tie-Dye here in just a minute, a little further on up the trail. And then Riley and Van Gogh, they are now north of Mount Washington. They summited there, and it looks like they did not have great views, but they said they've been doing fine navigating the White Mountains so far, and they've been doing about 8 or 9 miles a day. So obviously by the time, and they are NOBO, so by the time you get up to the Whites, or directly before the Whites, most people are doing 20, 24 miles a day. But the Whites are a whole different animal up there. And so you're going to slow down because it's a lot of ups and a lot of straight downs. And so the terrain is more difficult, and so people typically slow down. Also, it's gorgeous up in the Whites. So you're getting there at elevation above tree line, and people slow down just to take a look at that, and you're also getting near the end of your trip where you're just maybe a month out, and so people starting to, rather than having to get their itis, they're like, oh, I'm going to be done with my trip. And so typically all of those wind up slowing people down a little bit in the Whites. He said the views have been incredible, and I really get the feeling that nature at its most raw, untamed state at times being in the Whites. Says weather has been good so far with just one slightly rainy evening as they were going over Mount Wolf, and he was able to get into Lincoln, New Hampshire to resupply and was able to meet the legendary AT Trail Angel Chet West, who's been hosting hikers at his home for decades. As long as I've been doing this, I am not familiar with that name, Chet West. Leave a comment down below if Chet West has ever hosted you at his house or helped out. That's a name that is not familiar to me. And then finishes we got this week. So Tie-Dye checked into the 100-mile wilderness. Of course, that is right before Baxter State Park. When you come out of the 100-mile wilderness, you're right there at Baxter State Park, and Baxter means you're getting ready to summit, and indeed he did. So he summited on his NOBO hike. So congratulations to Tie-Dye. Tie-Dye is also a trail maintainer with the Tennessee Eastman Hiking Club, and so that's awesome. So once he came in from helping clear the trails, and they weren't done yet, but he helped out up until he started his hike sometime late winter He got on trail, and now he's a thru hiker as well as a trail maintainer. So thanks a lot, Ty-Dye, for checking in and the times that you did, and also for working with the Tennessee Eastman Club and help getting out there on the trail. Tucko Cat and Turtle Toe, so they have summited and completed their section hike of the Appalachian Trail, but they are also working on their thru hike this year. And so they're now about halfway done on what they call a pretzel style. So they, a lot of people, when they do a flip-flop, they'll go from Harper's Ferry to Katahdin, and then flip back down and go to Harper's Ferry to Springer Mountain, Georgia. That's typical flip-flop, but then people do all kind of different versions, and so they had just been back and forth on numerous places on the trail that they just called it a pretzel flip-flop. And so, but they had also section hike a good portion of it, and so now they have finished that portion, and now they're going to finish the thru hike, which means they'll be doing the whole trail in 1 year as well. So they've already done Maine, New Hampshire, half of Vermont, most of Virginia, half of North Carolina, Tennessee is done. So obviously they are hopping all over the place this year. And they were hoping that, that the mother, Turtle Toe, would be the oldest person, female hiker to thru hike at 78. However, they have now learned that Legend, who is a 79-year-old female thru hiker, she summited the first week in August, and so she takes the title there at 79. Moondog, he has completed his thru hike. Congratulations to him. He started the approach trail down at Amicalola Falls State Park February 26th. And there he was hiker number 380, and he summited August 20th, and he was hiker tag number 320. So that means he's the 320th person to summit this year. And then Dutchy, he also summited. He was number 289, and he sends in a video from the summit.
Hey Ramdino. It's Dutch here from Australia. You might recognize this sign here in the back. I made it. It's been great. It's mixed emotions. It's been an amazing journey. It's an end of an era, but yet the Appalachian Trail will always stay with me. It's been a beautiful hike. The people that I met on the trail and off the trail, everyone's been amazing. You can be really proud of your country, as in the scenery and the people. I think it's been great. And yeah, the next thing will be hiking in Tasmania for me. So other than that, I want to thank you for everything you do for the trail community, and I want to say to all the people out there still on the trail, keep going, and good luck, and I hope you all make it up here too. I think I heard that someone told me that I've got the FKT for the fastest Dutch Australian male over 40s. But to me, that's not too important. But if anyone wants to challenge that, they can contact your program. I hope you don't get too many phone calls and emails. But thanks again, and bye for now.
That's awesome, Dutchy. Congratulations to you from the land down under. Great to see your hike, and glad you could come over here and enjoy hiking the Appalachian Trail, and just thanks a lot for all your updates. So I went back and looked at a comparison of where we were last year compared to where we are this year. So I've talked to a lot of hostel owners, particularly Yard Sale and Crazy Hair, that run the Lookout Hostel up in Pennsylvania. And they said that their numbers have been off about 30% this year. And that kind of coincides with other folks that I've talked to up and down the trail that are hostel owners. Their numbers are down by about a third as well. And so we were at number 373, I believe it was August 20th, this time last year in my update last year. So that's behind, looking at the numbers, that's only behind about 15%. However, we still don't have everybody, obviously, that is summited yet. And typically, you know, the folks that are summiting, it has moved back a little bit. However, we've already seen earlier today where that's kind of, the bubble is still kind of in the same place, looking at, you know, the hiker heat map and and looking at where that is with the registrations from the Appalachian Trail Conservancy. But that is down, so we'll see if there's what it's going to crunch out to be is going to be, you know, if that 50% drops down to 30% more later. And then we've got some news out there. We've got some new bear alerts. So the officials with the Great Smoky Mountains, they have not closed Russell Field Shelter, but they've indicated there is a bear warning there. I read there on Facebook where one of the trail marshal, that's not the right word, I can't remember what the word is right now, but anyway, trail person that kind of looks after the trail in that section as far as being a trail ranger, what have you. She had a run-in with a bear at one of the campsites as well, which is there's few and far between campsites in the Smokies, but there is some, and that was one of them that's near the trail. And then she had also run into a bear there at Russell Field Shelter. The bear was actually in the shelter, and it was not responding to people, her trying to run the thing out, you know, by shouting and probably, you know, maybe throwing stuff in close proximity to it. So I think she also said she had an air horn that she used. So it's become pretty conditioned, and it's just a matter of time where they have to capture that bear and move it out. And if it keeps coming back, that bear may have to be euthanized. So unfortunately, people have put smelly stuff in the shelters or around the shelters and not policed up after themselves with crumbs and things like that. And so that's resulted in that bear getting conditioned. So that was at Russell Field Shelter, Nobo Mile 181. And then the campsite was at campsite 113 at Birch Gap. And that was campsite number 172, 172.6 Nobo Mile there. And then Spineless Cougar, he reports in that looks like there's been another dry week in Vermont. So up north it's been very dry, and I can attest to that being in Pennsylvania. This past week, he said larger rivers are getting low but still flowing, which means the seasonal water sources are going to be getting really low and maybe even completely dry. That was the way it was in Pennsylvania, which is of course south of Vermont up there. But he said they are having clear skies this coming week with lows in the lows in the low 70s to mid 70s, and then they're also going to have some highs, he said, in the 40s. So did not know it had gotten that chilly up there yet, that's excellent hiking weather, obviously. He did have about 30 hikers come through one day, and so he said that was kind of a micro bubble that came through there. And then the other day he was out there on the trail, there was only about 12 that had come through there, but 30 is a pretty good number. Now a lot of those were long trailers, so the long trail shares the treadway with the AT in the section there that he does in Vermont. The lightest pack there, some stats from him. So the lightest pack was a 15.4 by KT. So that is a pretty low pack. That's one of the lowest I've seen this year coming through his site. And then the heaviest was a 60 pounder by Jimbo Poppins. And that was an external frame. So if he's using an external frame, that is an old pack. I don't even know if you can still buy external frames anymore. And then the earliest hiker that came through was Broken Ass Turtle. And they left Springer there on March 17th, and they were number 113. And the latest person leaving Springer, they left on April 25th, and they were bag tagger number 2,331. So those are the stats he's got this week. And then also Whispers, our northern correspondent from the New Hampshire, Maine area up there, who reports in that things are so dry that Baxter now has banned all campfires in the park. So that's getting very, very dangerous up there. And you know, if Baxter's dry, so is Maine. And then conditions in the Helene damage zone down in the Tennessee Eastman Hiking Club's area. So they cover all of Tennessee, obviously, and that's not a large area down there as far as you know compared to some states, but it is a lot when you have total devastation through there. And they had a lot of devastation from Hurricane Helene that came through. And so I queried there the trail boss about what conditions the trail was in as far as campsites and stuff. We know that they're all the way punched through, and with the exception of that Iron Mountain Gap where they're doing logging operations, that has they haven't punched through that, and there is a reroute around there. but that looks like that reroute. The logging's still going on. They haven't done logging on the north side of the road that comes through there. They're still doing it on the south side, my understanding is, but they're kind of picking and choosing what logs they're taking and not just taking them all. So it's taking more time, and they'll probably do that on the other side, and it may be that the other side winds up not getting logged because it's just not worth the loggers' time to do that. Don't know how that, what their agreements are with the Forest Service about how much they will and won't take, but it doesn't matter. They're still working on it. It's still going to be a reroute there, at least through the SOBO season. He did say that they have just not had time to get around to stealth sites and clear those, or even get around to a lot of shelter sites and clear some of those. And they did get around to Cherry Gap shelter. Of course, Cherry Gap, they lost that shelter completely there. They were trying to clear it for tent sites there, and there was around 10 to 12 tent sites they had cleared, but because of all the weeds this year and additional trees that continue to fall, that site is probably just going to return back to the earth, as he says. And then they've also been out having to get rid of additional blowdowns, as well as trying to do the other maintenance, like water bars putting in, fixing washouts, and the weeds. The weeds this year have been terrible because it's been hot, unusually hot, and unusually dry. And then when it hadn't been dry, it's been unusually wet, so we hadn't had a good moderate amount of rain. It's either been really wet or really dry, and so that means more weeds coming back. And he actually apologized for the club not getting the weeds taken care of as much as they have in the past. There is no reason to have an apology for that. We get it. We know that you're dealing with diminishing maintainers, diminishing people coming out and doing the work. And there was a lot of people that came out when they were punching through and when Helene first came through, but now that's kind of diminished quite a bit, and so that's difficult. So I'd encourage all people to get in touch with the Tennessee Eastman Hiking Club and any club that's nearby you to come out and help maintain the trails. They desperately need your help out there. Hikers need your help out there to make those happen. It's just impossible with the folks that they have out there, particularly in these smaller clubs, to make that happen, and to keep up with it, particularly with the weed growth and the weakened trees that continue to come down from storms and everything. Isn't that right, Daisy? That's right. He did say that's a roof repair at Moreland Gap. They have not been up there and actually fixed it permanently. They hadn't had time with all the other trail maintenance, but the roof has held, and they haven't had any reports of any leak, but it's basically of any leaks. But it's basically just duct tape and plastic that they put up there for the time being. They've got to get new materials up there, metal and things like that, to fix that. And he did indicate they've also scouted out and mapped a new reroute for the Elk River. So Elk River, the flood came through there where the water backed up and just completely devastated the trail through there. So you can get through there. However, they are looking to reroute around that, and they have mapped a new one, hoping to get that approved by spring of 26. And they've also sent in detailed plans for 2 shelter replacements on new sites, which is Cherry Gap and Moreland Gap shelter. So that's one reason why they're not fixing that roof back permanently, is because they're wanting to move that, as well as, of course, Cherry Gap. They already had plans to move that shelter location and rebuild a new one, and now, since it was totally demolished by trees, hopefully that will get sped up and they'll be able to do that. But it takes a while to get through the bureaucracy of the ATC and the Forest Service to make that happen. He said, send along some information for SOBOs and section hikers. He said that pay strict attention to the overhead canopy. There's still a lot of widowmakers up there that have not fallen out yet. And of course, stuff is still falling all the time. So make sure, even when you're hiking, even when you're moving, you're looking at, particularly during windy days, and wherever you're pitching a tent, make sure you're looking above you to make sure that not a widowmaker up there. He said hikers can help by reporting on their website any blowdowns in Tennessee between Spivey and Tennessee state line to AT volunteer at tehcc.org. if you would give them a far out mileage mark and a photo with something in it for scale, like yourself or your pack or some trekking poles, so they know how big a saw to bring. That makes a huge difference in how big a saw they're toting, how much of a blowdown it is, as to how many people need to come. And so appreciate y'all's help in doing that. Stay tuned in for my Rocksylvania videos. They'll be coming up. I still got to finish last year's, and I'll be posting the new ones up from this year just as soon as possible. Check out this year's thru-hiker updates over here in case you missed any of the news or what's going on with the thru-hikers this year. As always, appreciate you. We hope to see you out here.